Welcome to the guide, Exile. In this guide, we are going to be investigating one of the most difficult encounters in the game as of the current 3.3 patch, and that is, of course, Uber Elder. Not only are we going to be fighting Elder, but a Shaper as well. This is going to be one hectic and messy fight. I would like to give a big thanks to DonTheCrown for helping me out with this guide. He's just a peach, and is generally doing Uber Elder carries and services in the Softcore League variants. He can be found over on his Twitch and YouTube page, which I will link in the description below. As discussed in my War for the Atlas guide, the Elder can be spawned on the Atlas by expanding his influence, the Dark Tentacle background, throughout a subset of maps by completing or killing over 60% of the monsters within the surrounding Shaper-influenced maps, the Celestial Star backgrounds. To spawn Uber Elder, it will require that we surround Shaper's realm with the Elder's influence by getting it on each of the Shaper's Guardians maps. In order to get the Elder's influence on the Shaper's Guardian maps, you will have to gathered all of the memory fragments for Zana, including defeating Shaper for the final memory fragment, which provides the Elder Orb. Once this has been done, and you have opened the locked door within the Templar laboratory, you will be able to have Shaper and Elder influence on your Shaper Guardian maps. Elder will always spawn on the tier of map that you are currently doing, so to make your Uber Elder spawn easier, you will want to be completing tier 15 or 16 maps whilst he is on your Atlas to bring him close to the Shaper's Guardian maps. If he is already on your Atlas, you can either work him up there in the conventional way by completing adjacent Shaper maps, or you can remove him from your Atlas and spawn him anew via tier 15 or tier 16 maps. A method that currently works as of patch 3.3 and is very cheap is to use your Elder Orb on a low tier map to make it a tier 16. In this case, I used it on Graveyard. You can then run the regular unshaped version of the map, complete it, and then it will count as a tier 16 completion and have Elder spawn right in position for an Uber Elder spawn. This may be considered a bug and could be patched in future versions of the game. Now, once you have Elder influence on a tier 15, you will notice that the Shaper's Realm and adjacent Shaper's Guardian maps have Shaper's influence on them. You'll now want to complete the Shaper's Guardian map that is adjacent to the Elder's influence, pulling the Elder onto that Guardian's map. After that, you can complete the two Guardian maps to the direct sides of the one with the Elder's influence on it. These can be done in any order and will pull the Elder's influence on them. However, it can be helpful to do the Hydra last, as he has two tier 15 connections that the Shaper can push back on. Finally, complete the last Guardian map with the Shaper's influence on it. This will then spawn Uber Elder and his Guardians on the four Shaper's Guardians maps. From here, if you are to run a Shaper's Fragment set, you will still just encounter the regular Shaper. So you will first have to run the Shaper's Guardian maps again to defeat the Elder's Guardians to access Uber Elder. The best part about these runs is you do not have to worry about the map modifiers affecting the boss, meaning you can roll them really tough and not have to worry about failure on the Guardian. After the Elder Guardians have been defeated, you will then be able to encounter Uber Elder by placing the Shaper's Guardian fragments into the map device as though you were going to encounter the Shaper. However, when you enter, Zana will be awaiting with a special device on, and you will not have to defeat any of the side bosses prior to the fight. Go right into the main portal and a small scene will occur with the Elder taking Shaper into his realm. It is through this Elder portal that you will fight Uber Elder. The fight occurs in the same X-shaped absence of value and meaning arena that you fight the Elder in regularly. There are no special environmental effects other than those spawned by the bosses themselves. For this guide, all of the damage values shown are average raw damage values before any mitigations have been applied. This means with physical mitigation or capped resistances, these moves will deal significantly less damage. The damage numbers for all of these moves can be found in the spreadsheet linked within the written guide and in the video description. Remember that these are average values and they have variance. A good method for checking the amount of damage your build will take is importing your character into Path of Building, applying all the correct buffs that you have, and checking the Calc tab's damage taken window for the percentage of damage you will take for each damage type. You can multiply this number against the raw damage values to see how your life pool stands against each move. Now with that information out of the way, let's discuss Uber Elder. Since we are fighting Elder in his arena with the Shaper and both of them will be performing the majority of their moves, we will need many resources to complete this battle unscathed. The main defense to consider is our life pools. You will want at least 6,500 plus effective life. Of course, if you have correct mitigations and an active playstyle, you can get away with much smaller effective life values. This fight is very much about learning the mechanics, and people have done it on much less, but as a new player, the more you can get, the better. Life Sustain. You will want to get at least two of these sustain methods or heavily invest into one of them. Physical mitigations. Cold mitigations. Remember that the Yugal Pantheon is very cheap and easy to get on any build, and reduces cold damage taken. And finally, a fast movement skill to avoid and escape boss mechanics. For offenses, you should focus on having strong single target damage. This will vary per build due to skill interactions, but a good gauge is being able to kill Shaper without issue, spawning only a few vortex balls during the phases, bar him going into immunities. This encounter is not technically timed, but you will have to manage Elder's tentacle adds and Shaper's vortex balls that spawn and drop patches of degeneration ground that will make positioning tougher. If you want a raw damage number to look for, I would recommend above 750,000 sustained Shaper damage per second. Sustained referring to no periodic buffs or flasks active. You can easily make use of Path of Building to get your build's actual damage against Shaper. The in-game tooltip is not always correct and does not account for many buffs. The build used within this guide and to complete this encounter was my Molten Strike Juggernaut that I recently created a guide for. This build has a massive life pool, many physical and cold mitigations, and above 900,000 sustained Shaper DPS. You can find that video linked via the card in the top right on my channel or in the video description. I will leave the pastebin for that character as well. This fight has phases wherein immunity alternates between Elder and Shaper. When the Elder is immune, he will have a gray bubble shield around him. When the Shaper is immune, he will have a purple bubble shield around him. You cannot leech life from immune targets nor deal damage to them, but you can still trigger on-hit buffs from them such as Elemental Overload or life gain on hit. After the short dialogue, the fight will begin. The Shaper will be attackable first, whilst the Elder will be immune within his gray shield. For each 25% of life lost on the attackable boss, the immunity will swap between the two. During immunity, the bosses will perform a subset of their total moveset, so you will have to be aware of both bosses during the fight. Before we go over the bosses and phases of the fight, let's cover some arena events that occurred during the entire fight and some general tips. Vortex balls. During the fight, roughly every 40 seconds, blue vortex balls will spawn at the edges of the arena. The balls will track you and engage you if you come close enough to them. They will then follow you around at a constant pace until they touch you, at which point they will fold out into a vortex that deals an initial hit and then leaves a cold degeneration. These can only deal one instance of degeneration, so if they are stacked, only one vortex cold damage over time effect will occur. Eldritch Tentacle Adds. During the fight, roughly every 40 seconds, floating Eldritch Tentacle Adds will spawn around the arena. These attack with lightning projectiles that deal minimal damage, but can apply shock. The main concern with these adds is that they drop Eldritch Decay ground if left alive. The ground effect is a dark gray that deals physical damage over time. Make sure to kill these as soon as you see them before they can drop this ground effect. Like with the Vortex Balls, only one instance of their degeneration can affect you if they are stacked. These spawns will leapfrog each other. The Vortex Ball spawns first, 20 seconds after the fight engages, and the Eldritch Tentacle adds spawn within the 20 seconds after that. They will then alternate within a 20-second time frame of each other after that. This is very much a mechanical fight, and will take practice, and you will have many failures to begin with. Each fight can be a little different depending on how you manage debuffs in the arena and what move orders the boss choose to use. You will always want to ensure that you are attacking the correct target. This may sound like common sense, but in the heat of battle, it can sometimes be hard to see which boss has immunity due to the thin, rotating texture of their shields. You will most definitely want to manage arena events. Always kill Eldritch adds as soon as they spawn and drop Vortex Balls along the outside of the arena, with preference on the inner corners of the X shape, as the Shaper will spend most of his times on the arms of the X. You will want to do your best to stack them on top of each other to minimize the area of effect. Proper Vortex placement can greatly extend the amount of time you can stay in the fight. Manage your flasks. Only use offensive flasks during periods where you can burst your damage, and defensive flasks when you're about to take an unavoidable hit. This can be difficult, but panic rolling your flasks non-stop will result in a loss of damage and defense. Remember that there will be 3 add spawn phases in which you can refill your flasks. Finally, stay calm and keep the bosses in sight. For the most part, if you're using a build with decent sustain, you can movement skill and walk around the arena without dying, just managing the arena events. Most all of the projectile and large area moves can be easily avoided with proper awareness and movement. Just make sure to keep both bosses in sight to predict their moves. With the arena events and general tips covered, here is the order for which bosses you fight. We will consider each one of these encounters a phase and look at the moves that each of them perform within it. For each new move, we will look at a description, damage type, raw damage value, and if that move is also performed within the immunity phase of the respective boss from that phase forward. To start, the Elder is immune and you will first fight Shaper, bringing him down to 75% life. During this phase, the Shaper will perform the following moves. A melee attack. This deals basic damage and only occurs if you are within melee range of Shaper. Beam. The Shaper charges up and fires a large beam at the target's original location, dealing damage over time from each element. This beam will last for 3 seconds. Ball projectiles. The Shaper will throw 3 ball projectiles in quick succession in a straight line that gains speed as they travel. These balls penetrate 25% of cold resistance and have a high variant of damage potential. The immune Elder will perform the following moves. A melee attack. A basic melee attack that deals moderate damage and only occurs if you are within melee range of the Elder. Ice Spears. The Elder forms numerous Ice Spear projectiles in front of him and releases them shortly after they form. These deal heavy cold damage and can easily chill and freeze targets that they hit, resulting in failure to dodge the next move or secondary wave of projectiles. The Elder has 4 variations of an Ice Spear attack. 1 wave of 3 large spears, 2 waves of 2 small spears, 3 waves of 2 spears, with the first 2 waves are smaller spears and the third wave is larger spears, and an arc of 8 small spears with the gap in the middle. The small and large ice spears deal slightly different damage as noted. As mentioned briefly before, the Shaper will mostly teleport around the arena for all phases, spending most of his time in the arms of the X-shaped arena. Elder will generally move around slowly, hanging around the center until he gets his teleportation moves later on. For this phase, you will simply want to keep mobile and get damage in on the Shaper when he goes for beams or basic melee attacks. He will generally only perform his ball projectile attack when you are not in melee range. You can easily walk circles around him to avoid his projectiles otherwise. The more dangerous projectiles to avoid will be Elder's, since his spear patterns are more unpredictable and he is not your main target. Keeping mobile whenever possible and monitoring the Elder's spear charge animation to know which variant he is casting helps to avoid those. After you bring Shaper to 75% life, he will then become immune, and Elder will become attackable. Now you must bring Elder to 75% life. Elder will perform the same moves from his immunity, plus 1 new one. Expanding Nova. The Elder marks the ground below him and creates a white line circle centered around the mark, with an expanding dark circle growing out around it. After about 7 seconds, the expanding dark circle will cover nearly the entire arena and will explode, dealing physical damage. The white line center circle is safe from the explosion, or any area outside of the other circle. The immune Shaper will perform the same moves as he was before. The danger in this phase, and phases going forward, is forgetting about the immune Shaper. His ball projectiles move fast and hit hard, so you'll want to avoid these. Make sure to pay attention to his location and keep moving back and forth out of the way of his projectiles. Simply sidestepping and walking is generally enough to avoid these. Also try to keep the center of the arena open from degenerations, as Elder will be performing his expanding Nova, usually biased to the center of the room as he won't move around all that much yet. When he does this, you'll have about 7 seconds to move around outside of the center of the Nova to place vortex balls and set up Shaper in a good location. Once they both reach 75% life, they will both become immune and Elder will perform an Open Portals move. Here he will move to the center of the arena, open 4 portals that spawn tentacle adds for 25 seconds, and during this time you must defeat them. The adds are a variant of the tentacle style adds that attack with lightning projectiles and can apply shock. However, these adds do not drop Eldritch Decay. The portals can be destroyed, but they will respawn. During this, the Shaper will continue to use the same moves as in his previous phases. The Elder's ad spawn can get quite hectic, and you will want to do your best to keep mobile and avoid Shaper's moves while prioritizing the adds when possible. Killing the portals will slow down the spawns, but ultimately isn't worth focusing since they will respawn. Feel free to use flasks here. After the Elder's open portals, you will return to fighting Shaper, bringing him down to 50% life. During this phase, Shaper will use his old moves plus 1 new one. Teleport Slam. The Shaper morphs into another dimension and quickly reappears at his target's location, bringing down a large hammer, slamming the ground in a large area of effect. The Shaper will first face and lock his target right before he disappears. This means you will want to be standing in a location that is beneficial to have Shaper in once the move finishes. Wait to move from your chosen position once the Shaper has phased into a different dimension. The immune Elder will continue to perform his previous moveset. Like with phase 1, you will want to circle the Shaper, avoiding his ball projectile attacks and getting damage in during his melee and beam attacks. When the Shaper performs a teleport slam, you will want to bait the Shaper into ground locations free of degeneration so that you can easily attack him. Remember that the Elder can and will perform his expanding Nova while immune. Now we will swap back to Elder, bringing him down to 50% life. He performs the same moves as he did prior and gains 1 new move. Siphon. The Elder will disappear into the ground, only to reappear at your backside applying Sprouting Madness, slowing your action speed greatly. He will then create a white outlined half circle where he will drain health from you and regain energy shield from it. This will deal physical damage over time for about 4 seconds. The physical dot can be avoided by standing outside the white outlined half circle, but the Sprouting Madness slow will be applied for the full duration of the attack. The immune Shaper will continue to perform the same moves as his last immunity. This is when the fight can get quite tough for many builds that don't use base movement speed protectors such as Comb's Roots or the Juggernaut's Unstoppable node. You will have to be extra careful in your movement around the arena due to the use of Siphon's action speed reduction. I found it easier to lure Elder near an inner wall of the arena to force his Siphons to either face outside of the arena or only cover a small portion of it, allowing you to wander with some distance from the Shaper's locations, making avoiding the projectiles a bit easier. Once they both reach 50% life, they will become immune and Shaper will perform an Open Portal move. Here, the Shaper will be in the upper left or right portions of the arena and open a portal spawning monsters for 25 seconds. These monsters can be of almost any variant. This portal phase is much easier than the Elder's open portals, as there is only one portal source and easy monsters within it. You will just have to try and keep out of the point-blank range of the Elder so that you don't get slammed by his spear projectiles. And unlike the Shaper fight, these adds from the portal will not damage Zana, so you can take your time killing them and kiting the Elder around. After Shaper's portal, you will be back to fight the Shaper to 25% life. He will perform the same moves as he had in his previous attackable phase, and Elder will perform the same moves as he in his previous immune phase. Here you will want to follow the same strategy as in phase 4, as the moveset is just the same, there will just be more ground degenerations. Now to bring Elder to 25% life. This time Elder will gain 2 new moves alongside his previous ones. Slamming Tentacles. The Elder will move up into the air, hover, and summon 5 sets of 3 conjoined tentacles that will slam the ground one after another, dealing physical damage in small areas of effect. A long duration Immortal Call is great to counter this move, otherwise it is best to keep mobile to avoid it. Rising Slam. The Elder will spin up into the air, disappearing, throwing a barrage of cold projectiles in a circle area around him. Soon after, he will swoop back down on the target location and clap above the ground, dealing massive cold damage in a moderate area of effect. You will want to stand within the circular spread of the initial projectiles, or outside it if you are already outside, and then move away after the Elder has disappeared to avoid the final slam. The Immune Shaper will continue to use his previous immunity moves. This is when the Elder gets the remainder of his moves and the fight gets even more chaotic. You will have to pay close attention to the moves that Elder is triggering to not take unnecessary damage. Do your best to get damage in on Elder when he is performing his basic moves, and get out of the way when he goes for a Siphon, Slamming Tentacles, or Rising Slam. Now once they both reach 25% life, they will both become immune, and Elder will perform a final Open Portals move. This is just like the Elder's previous Open Portals. After the Elder's final Open Portals, both bosses will become attackable, allowing them to both perform their full movesets at the same time. This can be the most difficult portion of the fight, with both bosses having their full movesets and the most ground degenerations out. However, since you can attack both, this helps out with sustain methods. There isn't much of a go-to strategy for this stage other than to keep mobile and get damage in when you can. You want to target and take down Shaper first. Bringing Shaper down to 0% life first will result in him being removed from the arena. Bringing Elder to 0% life first will not result in him being removed, so you'll always have to kill Elder last. Once Elder has fallen, he will be sucked into the void, dropping a pile of loot that is both Elder and Shaper influenced, along with some powerful uniques. He has a chance to drop the following uniques. Here, the Watcher's Eye is the ultimate chase item of Uber Elder, as it can have 3 random aura-related stats on it, rather than the usual 2 seen on regular Elder. This can result in incredibly powerful combinations. If he does drop a Watcher's Eye or no other unique, he will always drop one of these unique rings. With the Elder defeated, he will be temporarily pushed back and removed from your atlas, leaving no trace of the Elder within it. However, his influence will return once you have completed some more maps. You can either make use of the aforementioned strategies to spawn him on high tier maps to get another Uber Elder, or just go for a regular Elder spawn. I hope that this guide has helped you understand the fight completely, and has assisted you in defeating the Uber Elder. Remember, it is a fight that takes practice and good gearing, as it even took me numerous Shaper sets trying to learn the fight. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, Exile.